Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Abby, and I help run events here at the Strand. Before we launch into a discussion of Prisca Dorcas Mojica Rodríguez's For Brown Girls with Sharp Edges and Tender Hearts, I'd like to share a little bit of history about the Strand. The Strand was founded in 1927 by Benjamin Bass on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Searching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled from 48 bookstores until after 94 years, the Strand is the sole survivor, now run by third-generation owner Nancy Bass Wyden. We want to thank all of you for your support. Without our loyal community of book lovers and authors such as Prisca, we wouldn't be here today. Tonight, we are thrilled to partner with Latina Rebels to present Prisca Dorcas Mojica Rodríguez's new book, For Brown Girls with Sharp Edges and Tender Hearts, a love letter to women of color. Prisca Dorcas Mojica Rodríguez was born in Managua, Nicaragua, but calls Nashville, Tennessee home. She got her Master's of Divinity from Vanderbilt University in the spring of 2015. The bulk of her work is around making accessible through storytelling and curating content, the theories and heavy material that is oftentimes and only taught in the racist, classist institutions known as academia. She was invited to the Obama White House in 2016 and has spoken at over 100 universities in the past 3 years. She has participated in the young adult anthology, Nevertheless, We Persisted. Recently, Prisca also participated in an anthology edited by Linda Lopez titled The Fearless Rise and Powerful Resonance of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She started the platform Latina Rebels in 2013 and currently it boasts over 300,000 organic followers online. After facing a lot of microaggressions at her predominantly white institution, she turned to the internet to find her people. She has been featured in Telemundo, Univision, Me Too, Huffington Post, Latino Voices, Guerrilla Feminism, Latina Mag, Cosmopolitan, Everyday Feminism, NPR, and Teen Vogue. She is unapologetic, angry, and uncompromising about protecting and upholding the stories of Latinx communities. Joining Prisca in conversation tonight is Mariela Rosario. Mariela Rosario is currently the Director of Content and Communications for Revolve Impact, an innovative social change creative agency dedicated to making the world a more equitable place for us all. A gifted digital media creator and strategist, she has grown audiences in the millions for various digital platforms, produced award-winning multimedia editorial branded content, and met President Obama as part of a select group of Latinx journalists. Mariela is also a tireless advocate for the representation of women of color in the arts and entertainment. She has served on cultural advisory boards for various film studios and moderated panels on identity, race, representation for Warner Media, 20th Century Fox, The Rap, Unidos US, and We All Grow. So without further ado, please welcome me in joining Prisca and Mariela to the stage.
Hi. Oh my goodness. I don't think that water jug is big enough. I am so excited to be here with you, Prisca. This has been a long journey that I feel so blessed to have witnessed from almost the beginning, really.
For real. Yeah.
So I just want to talk to you.
I tell people how I met you.
Yeah. Tell the story.
Oh my God, from my perspective. Dun, dun, dun. So I met Mariela because I was working for this little publication that disappeared from the internet one day. But I basically am, I don't want to say I'm a diva when I'm writing, but I have a very clear idea of what I want to say. And I was having like conflict with the editor that I had. And so I had like basically threatened to no longer write there. And then I was assigned to Mariela because then we started working, and I feel like together we got so many cool pieces out in the world that I used a lot, which thankfully, since that page is no longer in existence, I could just use. But I feel like I was peaking at that era in terms of the writing that I was doing, and you were the editor who got to see it first, got to critique it first, got to make it better. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, that is literally the best compliment you could ever give an editor. I just remember reading I remember all of that. It's all correct. There's no lies being told. And I remember you coming to me and reading your first piece and just being like gobsmacked by like just how honest and in your face your writing was, but also how deeply I felt like you were speaking for all of us in a way that we didn't feel like we had permission to. And so I remember like you telling me, I don't know, everybody keeps on telling me that I'm too angry or that I need to like censor myself, but like I am angry and like I don't want them to be like telling me to not write in first. And I was just like, no, fuck all of that. Like you are gonna write the way that you are writing, and like we will work together to make some things better. But fundamentally,
Yeah.
anyone who didn't recognize your brilliance from the beginning, I'm not having it.
Which was the majority, unfortunately, which is fine. I
But
think it was very experimental for a lot of places.
People are scared of strong women. It's like such a fundamental through line in your entire book, which I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So, this book just, I feel like was almost like a primal scream that our young Latina women need so desperately right now. But I know, like, even just knowing you from back then and being policed by like our own community, right? Like there's so many challenges that Latina women face in the publishing world, and to getting a book like this published. So I want you to tell us a little bit about how you went from sort of starting this beautiful internet community with Latina Rebels to writing these first person essays to having a whole ass book, girl. Like it's here. You birthed it into the world.
I mean, I hear the words coming out of your mouth and I see the timeline and I'm like, I don't know how any of it happened. Any of it. Like it all was a lot of luck. Right place at the right time. The right person read what they needed to read to reach out to me. I got the right editors when I was ready to give up writing. It was a lot of like mistakes along the way, but it's hard. Like, I'm like, I don't know how this happened. I'm still trying to figure out how it happened. That's why I think like I can't even fully enjoy it because I'm still sitting like, okay.
I'm gonna give you your flowers, girl, because I don't think this was luck at all. I think you have firmly established yourself in the generation of like young Latina thinkers right now as somebody who like everyone respects and looks up to. And I remember you telling me on more than one occasion, I'm never writing again. I'm done writing. And I just laughed and laughed because I was like, that's not how the world works. Like, you're a writer. You will always be a writer.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that, you know, you saw this through, and I'm glad that you found the right team, because one thing that I will say is that you have been really vocal about how supported you've felt throughout this process. And so I'm really glad and just thrilled for you that you had that experience as a Latina writer.
It's been mesmerizing. I think it's been a very dream scenario, even just like going to the book, going to auction when it did, like all of that, just like I got to like experience the once in a lifetime within the once in a lifetime experience. So yes, it's been I could get a billboard on their first book, like all the little things that I'm like, what is happening?
I know, girl, I flipped my shit when I saw that.
I'm still not okay.
It's so crazy. I was like, everybody in your family should be flying right now to take a selfie.
Yeah.
So much. So I want to dig into the topic of the book, because I feel like this book it's really about your life, quite frankly, like and your experiences growing up and all of that. And you're very center subject in the book. However, you tackle pretty much all the isms, all the kinds of like life obstacles that a woman of color is going to face in her quest for liberation. And that sounds so heavy, but like, I'm telling you, the book, it's not sad or depressing. It's like, just like mind expanding in so many ways. I cried, I laughed, like, it's just beautiful, Prisca. And even though it's so personal, there are parts of this book that I was like, oh my God, she said it. She said that. Like, we'll talk about that later. But it's so personal, but I also feel like it's so universal. There were parts that I felt like, I was like, oh my God, that's my life. Like, did you sort of know that was going to happen as you were telling these like super intimate personal stories about your childhood?
It's my writing style. I didn't predict it when I started it. Like when Dear Woke Brown Girl went viral, I was like, I wrote that to myself because I was so sad. And I needed to like remind myself, like sometimes there aren't people to give you your love language, and you have to give yourself your love language. And
Yeah.
so I was like, words of affirmation, dear brown girl. And then it went viral, and like pieces I kept writing, like I kept getting opportunities to write, and things I would write that were super personal, so many people would connect to it, that it was healing for me unintentionally to know that I wasn't alone. But
Yeah.
I've never done anything thinking this is all of us. I'm just saying the things that I've lived through. And it's a wonderful happenstance that it's a lot of us who are like, oh my gosh. But it's been an accident.
Do you feel like writing your personal stories was a means to sort of reach this more free, unencumbered version of the Prisca that you have become later on in your life?
Yeah. And also I feel like there's something so freeing about naming the things that you have gone through. Because sometimes we can be in rooms with people, especially now, I feel like I'm entering some elite spaces and there's like this assumption of like how you got there. And there's this, because those opportunities are only like, they're gate kept from many. So I like the pulling the veil out of people's eyes. Like I like the reality of life, and that it is hard, and that a lot more people should be in those spaces. But here's why. Because look at all the shit I had to go through to get here. And I had a lot of things going for me, positive things. Like I'm highly educated. I come from a very Christian family, like where Christianity is good in the US. We view Christianity as acceptable religion. So
Yeah.
different things that gave me an advantages, but it's just been kind of like it's like rage at like, no, we didn't just end up here. This didn't just happen by accident.
Yeah. As my therapist likes to say, the more you talk about something, the more you take away its power. So I felt like that resonated a lot in reading some of your stories about your more traumatic experiences. I listened to the audiobook, which I like really loved, just because I like, you're reading, first of all, you're reading it, like they didn't have somebody else read it, which thank God.
I don't know how they would do it.
I know, but it just felt like we were talking. The book is very conversational. Like it's not a one-way street. So what's your goal for like the readers? I know it's called A Love Letter to Women of Color. Why did you want to do something like that?
I think when I figured out what was happening in the world, I realized, like, when I started writing and I was building all this community with a lot of women and femmes, and I was just like, I need to nurture the things in me that weren't nurtured or should have been nurtured, or like I need to celebrate us. Like clearly we're all struggling, and now I am at this place where I'm at the precipice of becoming an elder in some ways. And so I'm like, I have a lot to share. And a lot of, and like I want to also be like, and you have a lot to share too. So sometimes I read this on Facebook. It was like, sometimes some people heal in public so others can heal in private. And I'm like, I will do that. I will do that for y'all. Like, I meet women and I get excited. Like when somebody doesn't want to be my friend, I get so hurt. Like as women of color are like where I gravitate, where I find home, my community. Like we're just so beautiful and funny and sharp and vivas that I'm just like, I've been writing this my whole life.
Yeah. I mean, the vulnerability that it takes to just go there though, Prisca, is so, like somebody said, it's so generous of you. And I think that's just like the perfect way to put it. So thank you for always just putting your heart on the line with reckless abandon, because I have appreciated it from the very first moment that we met. And I think it's your gift in life. You're fearless.
That's scary.
No, it's not. Nothing's scary to you. So I wanted to talk to you about a chapter that resonated with me super deeply as a cisgendered straight woman who is married with 2 children. Talking to a woman who regularly refers herself as a senora and uses the hashtag Mommy Stewart.
True story.
About the male gaze, because I think all women, but it's like especially applicable to Latina women in a lot of ways, in ways that are just like really dangerous and insidious. You start the entire chapter off with a phrase that, like a sentence that I was just like, fuck, how did she do that? You're like, I divested from the male gaze. And I was like, I want to do that. I have not figured out how to do that in my life. So talk to me about like how you got there, like not necessarily even, well, we'll talk about that whole process of divesting, but like, just like choosing that way to open that chapter, just such a strong statement. Lay it on me, girl.
It was such an intentional decision. When it became so apparent to me how much I worshiped at the feet of the male gaze, I was like, oh, no more. And I like really made a flip, and I made a flip that really put me at risk and made me like the talk of town. It put me at risk in really profound ways that I found sad and lonely, but also fueling. Like I was like, I'm doing something right. This is good. This is it's not supposed to be easy. And yeah, I wish I could describe to y'all, like I was the girl who was like, I don't have friends that are girls because they're just all drama. Like I was that girl growing up. I didn't have friends that were girls. I had boyfriends. That's it. Like wow. I was a daddy's girl. I thought my mom was like annoying growing up. I really was invested in male approval. My male professors like would pick me out as like special because I like sought their approval so much. Like it was an issue. And if anybody had sat me down and explained to me what was happening and the ways that was reinforced all the time, I would have done something different, but nobody did until I was like 26 in this graduate program when we start talking about the male gaze. And I'm just like, I don't want it anymore. And my divorce like catapulted me in that direction.
Yeah. I want to talk about like a little bit what laid the foundation, I think, for most of that sort of perspective for you as you were a younger woman, and probably for a lot of us as Latina women, which is religion. You were raised up in a charismatic Christian household, and the psychological trauma with which the religion was just like sort of held over your household was so palpable. Like I got so terrified when you're talking about your sleep paralysis and how, you know, you asked people about it and they were like, that's the demons trying to get you. Damn, girl. Like,
yeah.
you got to the other side of that shit.
I was told to be like, lo reprendo en el nombre de Jesucristo. Like that was what I was told to do. Next time it happens, because they will come back. This is what you say. And I would scream it. It was wild.
What's your relationship with religion these days? How do you like break free of that? Because like it's been like you also got your degree in theology. So it's like you almost like went through it like in the hardcorest way possible in order to be like, nah, I'm good now.
It was the best mistake again. I wanted to get a master's. I did poorly in my GRE. And when I Googled schools that didn't require the GRE, Vanderbilt Divinity School was there, and Vanderbilt sounded prestigious because of Gossip Girl at the time. And I Googled what's divinity school, and it was like Bible, whatever, you know, very simplified. And I was like, I'm a Christian. I'll get a master's in that. Uh-huh. And when I got there, I was mortified. Everything that you learn, it's wild to have a professor be like, there is no evidence of historical Jesus. But it was good for me because through a lot of like hitting as discipline and correction, I had like Stockholm syndrome about Jesus and God and my parents and my dad. And it was jolting, but it was a good kind of jolting, because then I could be like, okay, so what do you think then? What is your thought process on this topic? And what is your thought process on this topic? Or even like professors challenging like the whole narrative of Jesus and God. And so I remember a peer being like, statistically, and this is all just like people are just dropping knowledge in these incredibly elite spaces. People would just say like, what if Jesus was intersex, like percentage wise, like what it could have happened. There intersex people have been around since the beginning of time. Like what if Jesus was intersex? Or a girl saying, why do you think God is a man? Do you think God has a penis? And I was like, do we equate malehood with penis? What does that mean? And it was just like, everything took me somewhere else. And it was good for me to be in those conversations to get myself out of that mentality. And then I could develop parts of myself that I hadn't been told I could develop, because La Biblia dice esto, and that's it. That's the only answer you have. That's the only explanation you need. If you have any questions, take it up with Jesus. Who's never going to answer back. So I was just like, today my relationship with the divine is very so I don't know if this is the place, but I came out recently. I'm a part of this is gonna be real wild. Yeah, I'm a part of the Satanic Temple. I'm a member, but y'all listen. There's no devil worshiping at all. It functions like a nonprofit, and they challenge different states. So they're suing Texas right now for the abortion ban, because in our amendments we have that you have the choice to decide what you want with your body. So it's a violation of freedom of religion. So they're using loopholes that have been created to protect Christians to also protect people who aren't Christians. Because if we really mean freedom of religion, then it should apply to various religions and various people. And so the Satanic Temple functions like a nonprofit. Their tithes, their like donations go to legal fees, and they just like go head to head with like hyper Christian conservative America. And I love it. And it fuels my spirit. Because I know what it's like to grow up in those spaces, and how much fear you grow up in, how much control you grow up in, and how discouraged you are to heal wounds. Because like, even in my context, if something's wrong, like, pray to God about it. Like, if you have a mental health issue, you shouldn't if you're with God. So it's a very scary world, and my spirit is fueled by attempting to face all that.
That's so cool. I learned something new about you. I'm gonna look that up because I've never even heard of it. So it's just like, I feel like if you're progressive, you got to be down with that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think so too.
One of the things that I feel like I've heard from many women that you really delve into in the male gaze chapter is like marriage for liberation from your family, which does not ever work out the way that anyone.
No, don't do
it. But I don't like, I've known so many women who just got married so that they could leave their family households. And of course it backfires because you're trading one cage for another 99% of the time. Yeah. So let's talk about that little thing called marriage.
Yeah, I'm one of those señoras that's like my first ex-husband.
One of many.
Yeah, I got married really, really young.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to run away. Like, I was sick of it. I got to a place where their answers for deep questions that I was having about myself. I was like 22 and wanting to figure out stuff. It no longer satisfied me to hear like, no, you can't have a boyfriend because God says so. No, you can't go out with your friends and drink because that makes you an unholy person. Like, I was getting like, those answers weren't hitting anymore. It was like, no, there's more. There give me more. And I was like starting to really resent being at home. And so I just like proposed to a boyfriend I had. And I said,
I love that you proposed. That was my favorite part of that story. You say it so casually. So I just proposed to my boyfriend.
I did. I was so upset one day with my parents about like how they chose the church constantly over me and my needs, and like nurturing things that I needed or from my parents. They weren't my parents. They were like soldiers of God. And I just was so sick of it. And I just called this boy and I was like, because I was afraid. I was still afraid of this, like, very Christian, you don't leave until de aquí no te vas hasta que te cases. Like, so I'm like, okay, if I have to leave, I'm going to leave on my terms. But also I'm going to do it well. And so I proposed to this guy, and I remember like us after we were married, me telling him multiple times, because I'm a heartless bitch. I would be like, if it wasn't going to be you, it was going to be someone else, but I was going to get out of that house. Qué romantic. Like, who says that?
No, but it's just like, it's so indicative of like who you have always been, even before you like fully became you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because the fact that you were still in that paradigm, but you were like, fuck it, I'm gonna propose. Like, I'm not waiting around for this sucker.
Yeah.
So like, but in a lot of ways, that first divorce was like your first step to like real freedom.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
It was twofolds for me because I left and it was scary. It was like, and now what? Because it doesn't feel scary if you have been told that it's good to live alone, if you're supported by parents who are even financially maybe invested in your independence of or illusion of independence while you wait for someone. No, like there was none of that. It was just like it was just discouraged to even have aspirations to cover myself financially, like to have my own job and my own bills and my own everything. So it was scary. I like was having like a real, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to like be a person. Am I ready? Like it's one thing to think it and want it, but it's another thing that I have to like commit to it. And that's what I was committing to. I was committing to like making life on my own terms, and it was very scary. I also I was pregnant, and I had always been told like there was that voice in my head that was like, this could fix everything. This could be the thing. This is what's going to get you back in line. The kid becomes like a purpose for a lot of people to stay together, to mostly I feel to stay together. And so I was like, I could use this. I could just say it was a mistake and use this, or I could really commit to what I'm doing. And I made an appointment at a clinic, went and got an abortion. And again, scary. And not telling my parents anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I know what their voices in my head do. I know what it's like to hear the people that you love, the people who have always said they do what they do with you out of love. I know what it's like to have them go in your head and say all the things that you know what they're going to say, because you're healing from those very things. So it's just alone. I was just doing it alone, and my friends guiding me and and hoping for the best. And after that, it was like, I have nothing else to lose. I did it. I made this decision. This is it. And I did. I just dove in the deep end, and I haven't looked back. But it took these two big taboo things that I was not ever supposed to do and never supposed to be proud of doing for me to like get shocked back into like a protagonist in my own life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. I cried when you talked about your divorce and the support that you felt from your friends, and the ritual that you went through with the fire pit and burning your dress. It like made me want to do it. And I'm like, wait, but I'm like,
I'm happily married.
I'm gonna bring my dress too. No, it was just such a beautiful moment of sisterhood, and it made me think, damn, like we've really come a far way, Prisca.
Oh my God.
We went from, shunning female relationships to literally depending on them for your survival.
Yeah.
Tell me how that felt.
It was awesome. It was like coming home to friends I was always supposed to have, life companions, like soulmates. Like I understood the concept of soulmates. Whereas before I was like, if it isn't you, I would have married someone else. I found all these women and I was like, oh wait, this was what I was missing. This is the puzzle to my life. You all fit perfectly into it. I don't have to force it in. I don't have to like do it because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, we're picking each other as friends, and we're going to live life together and help each other through divorces, through babies, through abortions, like through ordinations when all of them became ordained, because I did go to theology school.
Yeah.
But it was like I found my people, and I knew how to nurture relationships with women in a way that was always within me, but I hadn't done it before.
So after your divorce, you go on into your much celebrated hoe phase. This is when I met Prisca.
True.
I know. I was like, I know this part of the time.
I was having a blast.
So I feel like the dichotomy between, you know, virgin and whore is so defining for Latin American culture. Hard stop. And it's really terrifying to decide that you're not going to give a fuck about fitting into that like perfect mujer role, like, you know, the good daughter, the good wife, and just embrace who you are, or take it a step further and be pro ho. So tell me about this, Prisca, because I loved that. I was like, yes.
It's awesome. I think I became so aware during that time how often I had done the playful dance of gaining respect of men that were dating me or I was dating at the time. That when I was like done with the dance, they were like conflicted where to put me. Like some would immediately put me in the whore and be like, do you have other friends you can introduce me that are like you? And you could see like they stopped seeing me as a human being. To them, I was just like just sex, because they couldn't hold sex and like we could just be human to each other and kind people. It was like, no, you are saying you just want sex, then you are a whore with all the negative connotations that I've associated to that. Or the ones who felt conflicted, who'd be like, we have such great conversations, but you also seem to be okay with having multiple partners. I don't know where to put you. I want to connect with you, but I don't want to connect with you. And so I had to be okay with not managing, because you could sit. I've done this because I was whoring around enough. Sit with somebody who was traumatized. Like I triggered a lot for them by being free and comfortable with what was happening, that he ended up in a fetal position, like not okay. And I was comforting him and I was like, no, no, I am not doing this. Like I'm back. Like this is me nurturing you when I'm also going through something. And I'm also just, I have expectations. I have stated boundaries. So it was very interesting to learn to be okay with the way that people reacted to me in the dating spaces when they knew I was functioning the way that I was functioning.
Yeah. I guess like just talking about how people react to you, the entire time I was reading was like, oh my God, like what have your parents read this book? I know your sister has. Because like,
my mom lived it with me.
So like how is, like, I feel like there's been an evolution in your mom from seeing you become the woman that she maybe never even thought was like possible, like within the confines of her imagination even, right?
Oh yeah. And her accepting me was defying a lot. Yeah, socially and culturally, it was like defying a lot, because people were talking at one point. It was like she knew. She would say, no me gusta que estés en cama. Like she was aware. Because I was like, I'm done, and I've risked it all, and I'm gonna be honest about it. I'm no longer gonna hide anything from you. You want a relationship with me, like see all of me right now. And she stepped up and she like saw me and was willing to have those conversations with me and understood that I wasn't like, because I moved back home during this time too, and she knew sometimes I just wasn't gonna go back home often. And it would be a different car picking me up. Like she understood it, and she would stand in the front and wave me away. Men after men and person after person, just like
Love it. So I love the end of this chapter, which I think you're going to read a little bit of, because you speak directly to your mommy and your tias.
Yeah.
So if you could read a little bit of that for everyone, it's just so empowering and beautiful.
So I was struggling with how to end the chapter because it's the male gaze is so insidious, like you said, that it's hard to what is the solution to that? So I just provided a thing that I had to learn when I was like actively divesting from the male gaze. And it's a really good skill that hope I hope as many of you learn it in your lifetimes. But I'll start. It's page 181 if y'all want to follow, and it's like halfway through. I come from women who have stayed in patriarchal marriages through cheating, public shaming, and emotional abuse, with overall shitty male partners who treated them as inferior from the minute that they were wed. I come from women who, by staying, taught their sons that this was all okay. And those sons then turned against their mothers and treated them as inferior from the minute they felt like they were men. I come from women who have cried, packed their bags, and written goodbye letters, but stayed anyway because they had nowhere to go, because it was unsafe to leave. I come from women who have scorned me publicly for my independence, but who secretly smile knowing that their niña is brave. I come from women who have stayed in volatile situations. They did it for their kids and for their partners, but they never stayed because they wanted to. They stayed because they felt a sense of duty to everyone but themselves. I come from women who have kept secret bank accounts and crushed sleeping pills into homemade dinners just for the fantasy of a freedom they would never actualize. I come from women who, si pudieran regresar al día que se casaron, would not marry at all. I come from women who wanted careers, but somehow ended up supporting husbands instead. I come from women who stayed because they were supposed to, because the world is cruel. And they all say, todos los hombres son iguales. So I am a runner. I take vacations. I book next day flights to exotic locations. I spend an entire day at the beach drinking champagne alone. Or I lock myself in my room, block his number, and light some candles. But I run. I run for my own good. I run and carry the women in my line in my heart, even as they stand in shock at my behavior. I run for me and I run for them and for all the women who were taught to stay. I had to unlearn staying and I learned to run. And I know that running is a luxury. I get that. But I had to pursue this type of self-preservation because while running hurts, I've learned that staying kills.
I love you, Prisca. Thank you so much for this beautiful gift for us all.
Thank you.
Geez, I was almost starting to cry again. It's just so resonant. So we are moving into a Q&A portion, and we have some really incredible questions here. So I am going to start off with one from an anonymous asker. She says, or he says, or they say, Hi, Prisca, you are my inspiration. I am a queer Latinx person. What are some tips you have for someone dealing with a conservative Latin family who aren't willing to embrace or simply acknowledge their identity?
Their identity or the person asking?
I think this is the person asking.
Oh, I think it's very hard. I think I'm not the first person to say this, but coming out is a very privileged white narrative. And I think it's important to acknowledge that it's a little more complicated in our context. I had a friend whose whole master's thesis was on studying senoras, women past 50 who came out, well, never came out, because that's a thing. People don't come out, but can have partners they live with and like a full queer life right in front of everyone. But that just is never said. There's a lot of like, we don't talk about it. But I like she wrote this whole thing. It's like a phenomenon that a lot of the women in our culture like do their duties, like have kids, get married, and then hit a point when they're like, okay, now I'm gonna be happy, which is like really sad. And there's a lot of stuff to that we can talk about. But all that to say is that coming out is very white and privileged. And you need to do what feels good financially, what you're able to do, what you need to. Don't feel pressured to be anything that anybody else is telling you to be, because we live in a society that loves to push coming out. Do what you need to do. And when you're ready to go off, like I had to leave my house to be myself and be financially independent to do that. When you feel like all of that is available and easy, I say do it. And if you're ready to do it and risk it all, then do it too. But I'm very big on like, I did this for like 3 years, I feel, to my context. So if you have to do that, do it however you need to do it. But I don't envy you. I'll say that.
Yeah. So honest. So the next question is, can you talk a little bit about your experience in academia and the systemic sexist and racist environment that discourages us to be a part of it? I know this is one of your favorite things to talk about.
Academia is awful, y'all. And it's so wild because it's it's the place that I learned so much in, but it was so excruciating and depressing and self-worth shifting. It rewrote a lot of my internal beliefs about myself, and I haven't been able to recover a lot of my old narratives. Like I almost look at young me and I'm like, so naive. Like I can't even imagine going to the place before academia changed me and made me this, which I love, but also it's a lot of imposter syndrome and I mean along those lines, self-doubt and inability to like control my shaking sometimes, but I don't know how to answer that question. What would I say to someone in academia? Find your people, because this place is awful. You have to survive it, and you're not going to do it alone. Like focusing on school and just bulldozing is not going to be the way. Find the people who are going to make living through those experiences fun.
That's such good advice. I feel like that's how I literally survived college. Yeah. Here's another question. What are some things you hope we teach early on to young Latina girls? What do you feel would have made your worldview easier if you had learned these things early on?
All of it. I wish critical thinking skills had been encouraged like very early on, because I read somewhere because your brain's developing, basically till your late 20s, if you didn't develop your critical thinking skills, like your brain is done developing. Like that's it. It's gonna be hard to gain access to that. So I think that in school we should be asking the whys a lot and nurturing, like even just like 3-year-olds are just like why, just nurture the why. Keep going, say the wild thing, like just I think we just need to like nurture children's curiosity more, because I don't want to be prescriptive to people. I know what it was like to have a childhood where everything was prescriptive. I just want people to think more and to be willing to defy the norms.
I feel like your book is so important in this regard because what it does is it like personalizes and makes accessible a lot of conversations that happen in these elite spaces of academia around all the isms and around toxic masculinity, the male gaze, all these things that we're going to encounter in some way, or even just like shape our worldviews from the time we're little because of just our parents' own ignorance or just the way that they were raised up by our grandparents and all of that. And this book is something that I think is really easy for even like a young woman to understand. And they don't need to necessarily be traumatized in the same way that those of us who attended like more elite, like primarily white institutions have been traumatized, because it is traumatizing. Like there's no getting around it. And that's why I feel like this is so important. Like a young high school woman could read this and I think understand everything about it, and what you're saying, and apply it to their experiences really easily. So bravo.
Thank you.
Oh, this is a great question. Hi, Prisca. My name is Sophia. What are some future projects you are currently working on?
I have my I don't know if my agent's gonna just email me one day and be like, stop talking about your next projects. Sorry, Amelia. But I have 3 things in the works. I hope to sell one really soon. I'm just working with an illustrator, so it's collaborative.
Exciting.
But yeah, I'm like ready. I finished this book September 2020, y'all. So my brain and I've been like just ready to go, and I can't wait. I like now publishing opened its door for me. Like publishing was like welcome, and I'm running in and I'm bringing my friends. I'm like, everybody. Yeah.
I know who your friends are, so that's going to be awesome. This is a great question too. Is there a Spanish version of your book in the works?
No, they have to sell the rights to that, and the way that the contract worked was just English distribution. So I hope so, but I think it has to. Y'all have to buy it.
Yeah. Okay, make it happen, people. So this is from Maria Melesio. What do you suggest for showing up in spaces of privilege that tell us that the way that we do things are not the proper way? I really resonated with the part in your book about going to the writing center. Oh, the writing center at school. I was always told that my writing was how I speak and therefore not good. This is one of the things that you told me you kept on hearing for editors. And I was like, that's actually really great. So I want to hear your answer to this question.
I'm like trying to read it because I'm like, what did I suggest?
I think you were just talking about when you went to the writing center and they told you, oh, like you write like too colloquially, like it's not formal enough.
I think that what do I suggest? So I ran to my dean, the dean of admissions at my program. So I think you need to find people in power and academics and universities love to say that they're progressive. So test it. Let's go, baby. You have that flag in front of your door. What's up? you have hashtag me too as a sticker there. What's up? And so I just like challenged the allies that had self-proclaimed themselves, and they stepped up, and it was good. I found a lot of times it was my peers who were more actively dehumanizing in my program than the faculty. I'm not talking about necessarily professors. That's another world, but the staff, the women in the office, the ones printing things, and they were like God sent, and I made like community with them too, because I became SGA president of my program. Like I really like sought out my resources. I was like, I need money help, or I'm hungry. It was like, this isn't, yeah, like you're admitting people of different backgrounds. You need to understand that we have different needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maria, I would just say as an editor, that feedback is terrible. A lot of times good writing is actually closest to how you speak. And I think cultural competency is really, really important when you are looking for people to improve your writing. So try and find somebody. They don't need to be from the like I'm not Nicaragüense. I'm an Afro-Latina Puerto Rican woman. Prisca and I have different lived experiences, but we understood each other. And I think you need to find people who understand where you're coming from, so they can understand your writing and what your goals are.
And don't be afraid to like quit. Threaten to quit.
That's Prisca.
I threaten to quit everywhere, y'all. But like dare to risk it all for the thing you believe in. Like you have to. So yeah.
Believe in yourself. Damn straight. This is, what advice do you have for brown girls dealing with imposter syndrome who are having difficulty taking up space?
It's easier said than done. Like that's my imposter syndrome. I end it like, do it, even if you have to prove it to yourself first. Speak out, even if your lips are quaking. Like, just do it. Because like, I could have stopped myself from writing this book. Imposter syndrome lives within me and thrives. Like, y'all, I cried for so long when I got the book deal because I panicked. I was like, how am I going to write a book? Like, who told me I could do that? What am I like Elle Woods being like, I want to go to Harvard. I want to write a book. Like, that's how I felt like I sounded. And then I like find the drive. I went in Amazon and started looking at all these like bestsellers by white men. And I was like, somebody paid money for that. This published? Okay, I could do this. So find the drive that you need. You know your own needs. Find when you want to do a thing and you feel like you're blocking yourself, find the motivation, however you have to find it. And for me, it comes from like trashing white mediocrity. For you, it can come in a lot of different ways. So just like lean into that.
That was amazing. I think is this the last question, LB?
Or if you want to ask one more question.
Okay, Christian Contreras has a really good one, so I feel like this is a perfect way to end.
I know.
What word or phrase encapsulates how you feel in this season of your life now that you shared this book so generously with the public?
What word or phrase?
No pressure.
I know. You know, if you're a morning pooper, if you like miss your morning poop and how it ruins your whole day, imagine that since the book published. Like, I've just been in panic mode and I can't function as a person, and my body is like, we aren't safe. We're not going to function well for you. But that's imposter syndrome, and I just upped my therapy So that's been helping. But we're here, we're trying, y'all.
Well, Prisca, I will say that from reading your book, it seems that every time you're really scared about something, some fucking beautiful stuff becomes alchemized from it. So I just feel like fear is a good thing, particularly in your life. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything. It's just been so beautiful to see this come into the world. It is a true gift for us Latinas and for all women of color. I encourage everyone to buy and read and buy multiple copies of this book and share it with everyone, because it's really one of a kind. And I'm just so grateful that you've blessed us all with this, Prisca. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I guess I'll say thank you to everybody who came. Thank you, Mariela, for helping. It was, I'm obsessed with you. You know that. Like, you're one of the people I see consistently when I'm in LA. I don't see anyone as much as I see you. So I'm obsessed with you. And I can't wait to see you. And thank you for having been with me and nurturing me, because there weren't people doing that in that place in my career. And I wouldn't be here with the people like you, without the people like you who kind of kept me going. So thank you.
Much. I can't wait to see you too.
Prisca, Mariela, thank you both so much. I laughed, like almost cried when you read that chapter. To our audience members, thank you for joining us. It's been truly a pleasure hearing these two wonderful women in conversation. If you'd like to make a purchase of Prisca's debut book, you could do so by following that link that I put in the chat. But thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.